Lance, and I'm here with my co-host.
Tank.
And we're here on the front lines in the battle against the deep state, the cabal, the Illuminonkeys, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. How's it going, Tank?
Well, everything is lovely. Things are good, man. Things are good. So these are the big days, right? Are we in the? This is day 10.
This would be
Right.
it. You know, the 10th. It's Donald J. Trump. Taking A as 1, B as 2, C as 3, and D as 4, and so on. You get DJT, Donald J. Trump, for this day. Lining up with some Q posts and basically saying, 10 days, 10 days of darkness, and then, we head right off into this. And there's a 30 days in there. So it brings it all, everything lining up to this weekend. And this day, but the 11th was seemingly to be the announcement day. So we'll see. That's going to make it a weekend, and what is going to happen at that day, we shall see. But I'm expecting some things to maybe start breaking today. There is some declass of some notes and things that are happening that are causing people to freak out. But I think one of the most important things is really the amount of information coming out about the virus not being as it is portrayed by the media. And I actually have lined up something here. This is a doctor. Let me see if I can line this up a little bit better. From New York, and he's going to talk about the situation. And it's very telling. It's 6 minutes, and we'll play through half of it, but we can play the whole thing. But it's very important, I think, because this is good. He's encouraging other healthcare workers to start speaking up, right? Say this is not right. Okay, so here we go.
This is Dr. Cameron Kyle Seidel, ER and critical care doctor from New York City. 9 days ago, I opened an intensive care unit to care for the sickest COVID-positive patients in this city. In these 9 days, I have seen things I have never seen before. In treating these patients, I have witnessed medical phenomenon that just don't make sense in the context of treating a disease that is supposed to be a viral pneumonia. 9 days ago, I presumed I was opening an intensive care unit to treat patients with a virus causing a pneumonia that was ravaging lungs across the world, starting out as something mild, cough, a sore throat, and progressively increasing in severity until ultimately ending in something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. This is the paradigm that every hospital in the country is working under. This is the disease, ARDS, that every hospital is preparing to treat. And this is the disease, ARDS, for which in the next 2 to 6 weeks, 100,000 Americans might be put on a ventilator. And yet, everything I've seen in the last 9 days, all the things that just don't make sense, the patients I'm seeing in front of me, the lungs I'm trying to improve, have led me to believe that COVID-19 is not this disease, and that we are operating under a medical paradigm that is untrue. In short, I believe we are treating the wrong disease, and I fear that this misguided treatment will lead to a tremendous amount of harm to a great number of people in a very short time. As New York City appears to be about 10 days ahead of the country, I feel compelled to get this information out. COVID-19 lung disease, as far as I can see, is not a pneumonia and should not be treated as one. Rather, it appears as some kind of viral-induced disease, most resembling high-altitude sickness. It is as if tens of thousands of my fellow New Yorkers are on a plane at 30,000 feet and the cabin pressure is slowly being let out. These patients are slowly being starved of oxygen. I have seen patients dependent on oxygen take off their oxygen and quickly progress through a state of anxiety and emotional distress and eventually get blue in the face. And while they look like patients absolutely on the brink of death, they do not look like patients dying of pneumonia. I have never been a mountain climber, and I do not know the conditions at base camp below the highest peaks in the world. But I suspect that the patients I'm seeing in front of me look most like as if a person was dropped off on the top of Mount Everest without time to acclimate. I don't know the final answer of this disease, but I'm quite sure that a ventilator is not it. That is not to say that we don't need ventilators. We absolutely need them. They are the only way at this time that we're able to give a little more oxygen to patients who need it. But when we treat people with ARDS, we typically use ventilators to treat what's called respiratory failure. That is, we use the ventilator to do the work that the patient's muscles can no longer do because they're too tired to do it. These patients' muscles work fine. I fear that if we're using a false paradigm to treat a new disease, that the method that we program the ventilator, one based on a notion of respiratory failure as opposed to oxygen failure, that this method, and there are a great many number of methods we can use with the ventilator, but this method being widely adopted at this very moment in every hospital in the country, which aims to increase pressure on the lungs in order to open them up, is actually doing more harm than good. And that the pressure we are providing to lungs, we may be providing to lungs that cannot stand it, that cannot take it, and that the ARDS that we are seeing, that the whole world is seeing, may be nothing more than lung injury caused by the ventilator. Now, I don't know the final answer to this disease. I do sense that we will have to use ventilators. We will have to use a great many number of ventilators, and we need a great many number of ventilators. But I sense that we can use them in a much safer way, in a much safer method. That safer method challenges long-held dogmatic beliefs within the medical community and among lung specialists, which will not be easy to overcome. But I really believe that they must be overcome. There are hundreds of thousands of lungs in this country at risk, and the time to overcome them is now. I'm confident that if those of us that work bedside with these patients, those of us who are witnessing the things that we have never seen before, despite the many years we have worked and the thousands of patients and diseases we have seen, if we can effectively communicate this to all those that are so important but who are not bedside, the researchers, the administrators, those who procure our resources and make our protocols, the politicians, our own governments, if we are able to convince them that this is a disease that is different than anything we have ever seen, I am confident that an answer can be found, that effective treatments can be discovered, and that a plan to disseminate that treatment can be rapidly deployed, and that tens of thousands and probably hundreds of thousands of lives and lungs will be protected. The time for this is now. We are staring into a future in which a great many of our fellow Americans are going to suffer, not to mention people all around the world. For those who will not suffer directly from this disease, from the terrible human cost of this disease, for those who will not lose a family member or a friend, and there will be a great many number of people who will lose those close to them. But for those who don't, they are still going to suffer from the great economic cost of COVID-19. We are all involved in this future. So I urge you, for those of us, if you are out there, for those who work bedside, I urge you to speak up. We can change this. I thank you all for listening. Please spread the message and stay safe.
There we go.
So, oxygen failure.
Yeah.
That's what he's describing, right? Now, it's not that the oxygen itself is failing. It's that I believe that they're probably, if what he's saying is right, it would come back to something like nitric oxide poisoning in some level, right? It's like when you do a deep dive, your body needs time to release, all the buildup of the, I don't know, whatever there.
Well, I think when I was listening to David Icke, he was saying it's preventing the hemoglobin from being able to absorb oxygen, right? So he's attributing this, of course, to the 5G waves that's inhibiting this from happening. So then everyone is slowly suffocating, right? Now this doctor, he says it's spreading like a virus, right? So, but they don't know. Now he doesn't know what it is, right? And so this is very telling, because there's another doctor that was out yesterday talking about, or 2 days ago, saying that they were being asked to fill out these forms and make sure that we say that they died of the virus, right? Even though they had it, right? So there's more doctors are speaking up right now. So this whole narrative is starting to fall apart. I think this is also part of something that has to happen, right? That our medical professionals have to step up and say, this isn't making sense. There's something else going on here, right? And it's that question, right, that brings the attention to, well, what else may it be? And why is it that the media is so against, this treatment over here using the malaria medicine? So what is it? Why is this not making any sense? So it's the questions that are being asked. We're all subjected in the whole world to something that they're pushing a particular idea that the medical professionals say, no, this is not the case.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here, right? It's really amazing when you think about it. Let's think about what we've learned since this whole thing started. One, viruses are not what most people think, right? Is that fair to say? I mean, think about it. It's like most people think you're going to catch a virus from someone else, based on and we think it's through a handshake, or a hug or something, right?
Right.
But now we realize, well, it's our body, personally, that's producing. Our cells get toxic, they release RNA, then it's releasing waste, and that's what the virus really is, right? And that can go out and it's trying to expel itself from our body. Now, unless that is toxic in and of itself and gets into somebody else, and they're already toxic, it's not going to, viruses don't spread. Not the same way. They spread within the body, right? The same way that technically you can go and look at cancer, and cancer is a virus, right? It's spread like a virus within the body. That's what would be argued. So, first of all, viruses, and even with the things that we're learning, I'm not even sure what that means now. So talking about this like a virus, first of all, is at this point, clearly the medical community does not agree on what even a virus is. That's one thing. Second thing is, if it is just a virus, and there's an absolute cure, there's no question. The chloroquine combined with zinc allows the zinc to get into the actual cells. It ends up working to assist like the white blood cells would, right? Pushes the waste out of the cells, the body recovers within hours, within 12 hours. Every doctor's having the exact same result who's using that program for people that have been tested positive with corona and having symptoms.
Yeah, one of the doctors treated 1,000 patients, 100% recovery. That's a good sample.
1,000 patients to treat 1,000 patients, and all of them within 24 hours, complete relief of symptoms and recovery, right? All of them recovered. That is more than is used in that would be the equivalent of a very decent, proper clinical trial. So all by itself, that one doctor, that's enough. And to be honest, it doesn't even matter what the demographic is.
Yeah,
right?
Well, it's like forget the double-blind study. You do double-blind studies when the whole world balance is not waiting in the wings, right? Of everybody's health. No, so Fauci up there is talking about, well, that's anecdotal, right? We need double-blind studies. No, we don't. I'm sorry. 1,000 people treated by one doctor, 1,000 cured. The word cured of this ailment. However it actually worked, and whatever the ailment causing the ailment, right, which may or may not be a virus, which may or may not be, 5G, but it relieved the symptoms. They were cured. So this is
and not just relieve the symptoms, relieve the system, and what happens is it ended up eradicating the virus in the body, right? So that's a cure.
Or repaired the damage that that affected them in whatever way. If 5G was now, supposedly, there were some reports that there was some sort of film that was covering the lungs. All right, they were talking about this receptor, and it basically kind of crystallizes in on the internal of the lungs, and basically that's what makes them not be able to breathe properly, not be able to absorb the oxygen through the lungs. So maybe this process of elimination of this this contaminant, is then they're back to normal. They've removed the contaminant, whatever caused that contaminant to be there, whether it was 5G or a virus or who knows.
Well, I mean, everything, right? So, I mean, if you look at the utilization of proper medicine, has to consider the pathogen itself, the physiology, like how it's going to function in the body, right? Then it has to consider the chemistry, the chemical reaction when other chemicals are added, and also the frequency at which something is delivered, right? All four of those factors have to be considered when treating any kind of illness, right? Or just in general. I mean, those are good rules to apply, right? So you have an unknown pathogen at this point. You're not sure. Is it corona? So we say coronavirus, or SARS, we'll call it whatever, right? So you have this. And they're looking for a very specific strand of SARS as that, right? It's COVID-19, right? Because there's COVID-66, which is much more deadly, right? Which they're trying to plant here, right? So that's probably the reason why they're holding back the real COVID test to accurately test it. Mm. But then the physiology is how does it operate inside that individual's body, right? How is it actually, functioning?
I had another theory that came to me, a complete theory, just trying to piece things together. If they're trying to do some sort of terraforming, the they being, some kind of alien influence that needs less oxygen, what they really need to do is get rid of the oxygen breathers. So if they've done enough genetic modification, right, to the population, so that we require less oxygen, right? So, but there's still a lot of people that require the oxygen. What you do is you get rid of all the people that require more oxygen. And then all of a sudden the new norm is now brought down to this level of oxygen.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's the case. I think
sure. No, I don't know either. I'm just this is just a theory.
But I think it's something to consider. Yeah. Yeah. What I do think though, right? So I mean, this is why from the very beginning, since day one of this, what I was recommending, and we were a little bit ahead of this actually. What I've been recommending is hydrogen peroxide. Right. Because hydrogen peroxide dramatically increases the oxygen levels in the body if you're taking it, food grade hydrogen peroxide orally, right? Now, there is really significant studies done on this that have been around for years and years and years. I mean, probably 100 years of studies on this, right? And yet, everybody in the back, they know this is possible. What? Because it's just so simple, it's so easy. It can't possibly be the solution, right? But I'm very hesitant to even say this, but my daughter did have the flu a week before the coronavirus stuff hit, right? Everybody knew that. I put it on air.
Patient zero.
And I treated her with hydrogen peroxide, and she beat the flu in 3 days. Right? No problem. Now she's a kid, right? She's got a strong, robust immune system, right? But point being is that it was easily treatable, and it just, I'm sure, it increased her oxygen level, right? But of course, there's no way I was taking her to a doctor, right? Because I don't trust them. Because in the hospitals are definitely not where people are going to be saved. It's where people are going to die.
So maybe that's why there's vacant.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to go to the hospital? I mean, right now, you've got all of these tents set up expecting lots of bodies. Why? There's no one there. Like, why do you need a tent in Central Park when you have vacant hospitals all over the city? I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
This whole sham doesn't make sense to me. Mm.
Yep.
I mean, I really think there's a breakdown. You know, they're expecting. I mean, you've got people that clearly are bought in on this on some level, right? They've been told this virus is going to be a nightmare, right? Now, we reported this 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I was on a call with Becky Uta. Uta is one of the gurus in the
Yeah, I know Becky.
no, yeah, okay. Uta, her brother was there working, you know, on the West Coast there, and we got then they were ready to do this then because they told people like they had engineers who would go back and forth to China once a month, and they told them that they would give that engineer special permission to come back in and be able to drive back to his home. They were going to put a sticker on his car, and he would get special permission to do it. And he said, and they told him the reason why is because there's about to be a SARS outbreak, right? It's coming over from China, and we are going to quarantine everyone into the stadium. Now, you know, I'm sure I've told this story at least once or twice on this, you know, together with you. But think about that. That was over 4 years ago. I reported that, right? That happened. And I've reported it several times. Like you tell the first one, she told me that now she had two sources that were great. That one was direct, right? Like, from the engineer who was going to work on something in China, right? And then her other direct source was her husband worked for the IRS, right? So like, they were shutting everything down, the IRS.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
So these things, like, so sometimes I wonder, like, I don't know if it was a different timeline, but that SARS virus that was happening then, quarantining people, right, in the stadiums, well, there is a more aggressive version of this, right? And my prediction on this has been, like, very, like, there definitely is experiments that have been done that create zombies, right? that create some version of a zombie.
Well, actually, David Zubrick was reporting on people that have caught this are now acting as though they're zombies.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't finish watching his video. Yesterday I started watching. I didn't finish it, so I didn't get to the good stuff. So I didn't talk about it. But yeah, it's something to check out. It's he ends up getting some interesting information, but you know his sources may also be controlling information the way they want it to flow, kind of thing. Oh, be afraid of the zombie apocalypse now, right? So, or maybe that's the new version, the 6.6 version, COVID 6.6.6.
Yeah. I reported, like, I really try to put these in context of, like, this is what they were trying to do, and that will never happen, So, they're pushing it, though. They're trying.
Yeah. Well, let's kind of shift here a little bit. There is a new video about what's going on in China, right? And that all the Chinese people have eaten all of the animals.
Eat all of them.
All the animals. So here, let me go ahead. Let me switch the screens around here, and let me share it with you so you can see it.
2,735. The Chinese have eaten all the animals on the planet, even the pandas. Some blind people have been caught eating up the Labrador. Viruses expanded by the hundreds. An incredible number of people die. Then the Chinese decided to go in space and look for food. Who the fuck are those bastards who want to eat us?
They're the fucking Chinese.
They eat shit.
It's a big liver! Wait!
They say you look like a pangolin.
What?
I wanna eat baby Yoda!
Look, my friends! There is a planet full of tasty poodles! Little doggies!
We're screwed.
Don't worry, Jack. You're not gonna end up in dumplings.
Shit. We got the virus. That's because we shouldn't have eaten the big slug.
Suck my slimy slug cock, you Chinese bitches.
No more mask, no gel, no TP. Is there some chloroquine left? One bottle. I just wanted a tiny Peking Yoda.
Star Wars. There we go.
Oh my god. That is awful. And you should never show that again.
Yeah,
It is
pretty.
racist.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
It's really bad. Oh my gosh.
Well, I
Now,
thought we needed some
But
comic.
I will say that the Chinese, they are known for eating, and they have very different eating habits.
Yes, we'll get.
I've watched them pull birds right out of a nest and eat them, things like that. That are different, to say the least, right?
Listen, well, I have eaten a lot of turtle there in eel, but that's about as far as I went. Turtle soup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never had turtle soup. I've had some things like that. I don't like textures that feel like they're still alive. That's a little thing feels.
Well, they do squirm a little bit as you eat them, but
Oh yeah, that's what I can. That's the thing that's a big luxury for them. Seeing. I just don't. I like to taste food and enjoy it. I'm not looking to put it in my body and then have it fight for its life.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's switch topics a little. Once again, here's an interesting one. You know who this is, right?
Yep. Michelle Obama.
All right, and maybe you might know who this is.
That is her alter ego or previous identity, right?
Yeah,
Michael.
Michael. It's Michael Obama. So here's more like a full on Michael Obama.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So there. So where did that come from? This photo comes from here, and of course, right on the right hand side is Michael Obama. On the left is Barack Obama, or Barry at that time, and in the middle, Bill Gates.
Wow.
Dun, dun, dun. So, they're all in the family. Keeping it real.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah.
Like how does that jump happen? Like,
well,
are they?
So in the families, right? If you so Bill Gates and Chuck Schumer, they both have wives that are men. Because if you're in the order and you have a first male child and you do not want to sacrifice it, you have to give it up to one of the other family members to be raised as the opposite sex, as a female. Now you have a bunch of these, let's just say, converted individuals out there that they need to put into play. So they marry them off into the other power players as a form of, another form of blackmail material.
Very interesting.
Right. So, but they all know each other, right? They're in their youth. They know each other. They're hanging out because they've got roles to play, right? In this big game.
So they're prepping, basically. They're being prepped at all times, their whole life, basically.
Yeah, their whole life. Their whole life is in preparation for doing their part for the order. Right. So we're seeing it exposed. So we also have Brock's brother in Kenya is putting out a book, My Big Bad Brother, and he's putting out some pictures of Brock in some tribal attire, which we're being told by NQ that they're to expect some other pictures in tribal attire holding an AK-47.
Yeah, I've seen that picture.
Right. But I've seen that too. But there's another one where he's firing the AK-47 at the American flag.
Ah. Well, that's
that is what's is said is to come out soon. So
I thought he was Indonesian. I thought didn't we track Barack back to Indonesia somehow?
Yeah, he did spend time in Indonesia, right? His mother moved to Indonesia, and then somehow the father, who is African, is now in the scene.
Right.
But is he actually, the father, or is it this other guy from that has this, which is interesting enough. It's a son cult, where the father looks just like Brock, or the guy that was supposedly Brock's father, and the mother was a devotee of this particular individual in this sun worshiping cult. So that
is definitely the Order of the Black Sun. I mean, that's
right.
So that would go back to now. This makes sense now, right? So remember, the global currency reset goes back to OMB, right?
Yeah.
And the actual elders that were supposedly in control were not the Chinese elders, but the Indonesian elders.
Right.
Right. And the Indonesian elders are the ones that had fought this bloody battle, and then when the researchers that I worked with, one of their primary went to sign the deal with the Indonesian elders, they had to go to this room and they took this revolver out that was folded in a flag, this bloody revolver, and they were like, if you ever betray us, I will shoot you in the face with this gun. I'm like, wow, that doesn't sound like the benevolent Indonesian elders that I've heard of. So, so that makes sense, right? So then, so you trace that back, and that goes back to like the League of Assassins, right? That are dedicated, to the practice and study and the love of death, right? Everything about them is creating innovative ways to understand death, right? And that makes sense, right? So that's the Order of Assassins, or the Order of the Black Sun, which would make sense that Barack Obama was raised in that, right? Very secret society type stuff where you're raised to infiltrate, right? Like a good assassin would.
Yeah.
Be a pro at infiltrating into a government.
Right.
I'm sure that goes back to this now. And then the flip side of that would be the Jesuits, right? The Jesuit order. And I would say it's the exact same. This is what I've been talking about over and over again. Yeah, everybody thinks they're different, but they're the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And so you have the Jesuit order, again, which goes back to the Rothschild Nazi faction. And they're what is their thing? They're going to infiltrate the Protestants, right? Mm-hmm. Marry their women and destroy their babies from within, and kill them, and things like that, right? Crush their skulls. Really aggressive and very specific language, right? Just like Jesus would have them to do, I guess, because that's what they're supposed to be.
Yeah. So it's very crazy, how all these pieces fit into place. I mean, I also, think that we have. While you're talking, I'm thinking about Shiva, right? And then there's the Order of Assassins that basically left and went throughout the Middle East into, towards the east, ended up in India, and they're the Sikhs. So the Sikhs.
Yeah, same group, same order.
Same order. Okay, so it's just a matter of where it's the same principle, same ideas brought about in different lines, right? And it's
And this all goes back to, I mean, this is where you can kind of see the common line that goes back to Marduk, right? Like, I mean, if you could live, if you limited life of one group, and then you live beyond it, you know, you can play many roles, right?
Yeah, I figured I got another thing. Let me bring up QMAP for a moment. You go keep talking for a moment.
Yeah. So I mean, so you have Marduk living through, you know, several thousands of years, right? Basically, is the idea. And so if you live through thousands of years, that's why you have the same character that will appear, you know, as Apollos and Mercury, right? And then you have like the same god, and then that translates and ends up being Zeus, and that ends up being, you know, and that goes, and you can change all the way back to Marduk, and then depending on what you know, one of the Christian versions, but it all goes back to the same, you know, he inserts himself into holy scriptures or whatever, takes the credit for what others have done, things like that. And then you have, so then you can see how the order of the assassins with the Jesuits, right? They're supposed to be, the Jesuits are supposed to be the, you know, the order of Jesus, right? But that's the order of to hail Zeus that comes from Rome, right?
Right.
So it's the order of Jesus. So that is their order. They're loyal to that God, who is the, you know, they call the Holy See is the Pope, right? But even then, the Pope isn't the highest piece, right? There's always Marduk is above that, and he's the one that, you know, the Pope was just the vicar of Christ, right?
Is it
But
vicar
Marduk
or is it
himself-
vicar?
Vicar, it might be vicar. I mean, I've always known the previous inscription on the was vicarious filii dia, so I thought it was vicarious. It might be vicarious, I guess.
I guess. Yeah, I've only
But,
heard it.
but I just look at the spelling when I see it, you know, the way it's spelled.
Right.
Like I know vicarious filii dia adds up to be 666, right? That's why the Pope doesn't wear that crown anymore. But he still would call himself the, you know, vicar, the vicar,
Right.
the vicar of Christ, right? So now, I guess they realize that there's no resurrection of Marduk, right? Because he's gone. His heart was removed from his body and his head was cut off. So there's no returning for him.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's kind of what I was looking for. Let me. I'm going to share my screen about one thing here, and so it'll kind of. It's not the one I was. There's a certain Q post, but you'll get the idea from this particular one. Oops, got an error. Never mind. I'll just zoom in on this one. So in when we're talking about these things in Qanon, right? We have these kill brackets. They basically are showing different people showing yeah, hey, that, you know, he'll drop a couple things in a kill bracket, meaning it's a, you know, kind of a here, I'll show you too. So it's kind of like highlighted here. And they put the letter M in the middle, right? But there's another one which was more recent, right? And where they put the Y in the middle. So here's like, and this is this is the actual one. It says right here, a higher loyalty, right? Now this is what James Comey said. He has a higher loyalty to who's in the kill brackets, the Y. Now we were thinking this is, you know, the Y family, the Rothschilds, right? And then everyone's been thinking this is you know, now adrenochrome. They have a higher loyalty to adrenochrome. That didn't quite make sense. But I started thinking, I said, wait a minute. This Y inside the brackets, what does that actually look like? Is the letter M.
Oh, from Marduk.
Yeah. Higher loyalty to Marduk.
Wow, yeah. That does look like them.
So
Very
anyway,
interesting.
yeah, that came upon me yesterday. I went, I was looking at In Pursuit of Truth truth, I think, is what it was. He was bringing this up. Comey has a higher loyalty to the Rothschilds, is what everyone was thinking. Now I'm thinking it meant Marduk.
Yeah, or Moloch is the other one, right?
Yeah.
Marduk, Moloch. I mean, no, but they're the same. They're the same one. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Moloch is just another name for the devil, I believe. Or Memnoch. You know, these are all
Yeah.
different names for this.
Well, that Q Patriot, he actually has a background in esoteric studies and things like that. So he actually was going through some of this, and he did a kind of a walkthrough and who exactly, and he said that the owl character is that they worship is not Marduk. It is not Moloch. It has to do with what's his name? Miranda Mir. I forgot what the name was, but it was a goddess in Rome, and I think it was Athena that basically had gotten upset with this one human that wasn't going to follow the program, right? It was going to do it her own way, and so she turned her into a giant spider, right? So the whole idea behind Bohemian Grove, and they have this symbol out in the front of Bohemian Grove. You know, it's like at the doorway. It shows an owl, and this is no spinners of no weavers of reality are allowed here. Right? If you're gonna make your own way, if you're an independent thinker and you're not gonna follow the program, you can't come in here.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was an interesting thing. So that's another piece I was looking.
Yeah, that's really fascinating stuff. I'm fascinated by the spider symbolism too, right? Like, because this is you take it back to, there was 3 groups, right? You have the Anunnaki, the Draconian, right? And then you have the Mantid. That were the kind of the war, like, and the Mantid and the Draconian were working together on the planet. So you have this Mantis Queen who kids had interactions with, right? And they just thought that they were like, look at all we did for you, because they tried to turn us all into a hive mind. Mm-hmm. And in their world, it was like that's a favor they were doing us.
Right.
We were so sporadic, trying to be creative and stuff. So it's like and then so they divided us all against ourselves and they're the ones that were responsible for tech, if I understand correctly. Like they bring in like all the nanites, all this nanite tech, right? Mm-hmm. They're not really formidable, I guess, physically, but in Cambodia, right? I can't remember what it's called. I always get this wrong. But you have this very famous piece of architecture that looks like, it's got qualities of like bug-like qualities, like almost like a hive, right? It's famous. And there's this story. It's of something that happened where you had these giant spiders come through this portal and devour the people, right? And it's a fascinating story. It's not something that's easy to research, but that's something that's not that old either. It's not like an ancient story, right? So it's like something that has just been buried. But I don't have enough details on it. But that's what you're talking about. That reminds me of some connection to that.
Yeah.
This is part of the debacle with burying history, right?
Sure. And they also make things, the opposites, kind of like, so someone you might have thought really was, the hero of humanity, it gets flipped around, and like, okay, it's spiders, right? So it's a bad thing, right? No one likes spiders. So, well, some people like spiders, but for the most part, it's people, even insects in general, people are against, having some sort of. I don't really mind all insects. Certain ones are a little odd.
I think what it is for me is I think our planet is supposed to vibrate at a higher frequency, and when the planet vibrates at a higher frequency, you have elementals that exist here that would play the role that bugs play now, like fairies, and things like that. Which I think, I guess, at least in my fantasy world of imagination, that seems more appealing to me. Like, I would rather have little fairies around than some of the bugs that are around.
For sure. Yeah. Well, there.
But
I had. I woke up. So maybe about a week ago, and I had this big welt on the side of me, right, on my side. I look at what is that? So what bit me at night, right? So something bit me, and lo and behold, I find this in the up in the very corner of the room, up in the upper ceiling part, right in the very corner. I kind of see kind of a web.
Yep.
I go look up in there. I go, oh, that's the culprit. I'm just his midnight snack. Is waiting for me to fall asleep, and he comes creeping out. Now, this,
that's
yeah,
horrifying to me.
yeah. But, oh yes, but I have this. I cannot see it. Can you? Oh, okay, yeah, I can see this.
What?
All right.
I'm looking. Ah, yes, that is cool. Yeah, it's the electronic bug zapper, right?
Yeah, it's like
fly swatter.
Yeah, it's like for mosquitoes, but it works really well on just about every insect. You know, they get a big jolt.
You just swing it right, and like in midair, it'll just shock them.
Yeah. It's the most miraculous device in regards to getting mosquitoes, because mosquitoes you can swat your hand right. As you swing your hand, you know the mosquito as your hand comes close, just moves up and out of the way, and your hand goes by, and it moves right back to the location it was before. It's like you can't do anything, but for whatever reason, they can't flee this swatter, right? And so it's like they just go right into it in the middle and get zapped. So it's an amazing thing. It's almost as satisfying as that old Tabasco commercial. You know, the guy in the bayou is sitting out on the back porch, and he's pouring some Tabasco, like dripping all over his tacos, right? And then he's eating his tacos, and then some mosquito comes over and lands on his shoulder, and he just takes another bite of his taco, and he just lets the mosquito go ahead and bite him, and then the mosquito flies off and then explodes in midair.
That's pretty good.
I love that commercial.
Wow.
I think
Yeah, that's really fun. Or like Frank's hot sauce commercials.
I don't know.
Some old lady. She's like, I put that blank on everything. It's so funny. Funny old commercials. Well, hey man, I will say that we do have a promising, hopeful meeting tomorrow. That I should maintain. It's very good news, and I know that Kim is doing a show tomorrow at 3 with Thomas. I think there's only 100 people that will be allowed to get on that call, from what I've been told. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's a Zoom link or how that is. I'm not planning a clamor to get on it, but I'm sure that, I'm sure his people will get on there. I'm sure we'll get a report from that. But I have a meeting with Kim and some other people before that at noon, and so tomorrow should have some pretty good reports. There is, the president was out. He was talking about something they're referencing, and he's saying, it's interesting. He was saying, I'm going to have to make a big decision, and I only hope to God that it's the right decision. Mm-hmm. But I would say without question that it's the biggest decision I've ever had to make. And I was like, wow, that's I think that might have to do with Kim. I think he's in the position, which I thought.
When I heard him say that, I heard it this morning, and that's what crossed my mind when he said it.
Well, he's also wearing a pink tie, which, I'm sure there's another reason, but
there's another theorized reason about the pink tie, but that's because that goes back following the White Rabbit, so there's some of that involved with this, because he's wearing that pink tie quite a lot.
It's interesting. Before I ever knew Kim existed, right? There was this conversation I had, or maybe it was right when I first started talking about Kim. Jared Rand was telling me this story of sitting at this very elite table with all this hierarchy of people, right? And people he described, I had no idea what he was talking about, right? But he would describe people that that were like mythological, right? Is what I thought. And I was like, what are you talking about? We're at a table with these people, right? He's like, and he goes, and he said, all of a sudden an individual spoke, and everyone, when this individual spoke, took it very seriously. And they said that the next M1 would be a woman, right? And actually, I think that was like right, maybe the first conversation I had with him, and Jared Brandon said that, and I thought that was like a big, deep thing, because that to them is a huge deal.
Right.
It's a huge deal because the M1. Now, first of all, that position is not even really a position the way it's been portrayed to us. You know, there's just M1 levels of transaction.
Right.
But in this current time, there is only one M1 or one person in the M1 level, which is Kim. But remember him saying all the way back then. So maybe that's the big decision. And that's why it's being portrayed this way. And maybe Trump has not, as much as he has been working with Kim, right? Because Kim has brought money in several times, but I know he was furious, and you could see it, because you got to imagine this guy's reputation is on the line, right? He built up everything. Everything looks to be going his way, right? Kim has been kicking their ass for him, and to be honest, with all due respect to President Trump, I'm sorry, nobody's going to tell me different that with all this planning. All that planning doesn't mean jack anything if Kim isn't doing what she's been doing.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to, all the hater groups out there, they know that's true, right? They know that's true. That's why we keep getting contacted by all these different, groups who are trying to position themselves, and they're kind of playing the fence, right? They're pandering to their former masters and also trying to get in good with us to, just in case Kim wins. But the reality is Kim's the only one that's going to bring money in, right? She's the only one that has the ability to bring to bring new money on ledger. And if she doesn't bring new money on ledger, there's not going to be anything left. I mean, there's not any way for any progress to be made. So you got President Trump, who clearly he's getting advice from, people connected with the order, right? Because they all do. Now, I do have one witness on this that I want to share real quick.
Okay.
Now, we had a meeting today with some of the people that are going into the White House, that are fighting human trafficking, right? And this group is gathering, this is one of the several groups that are going in. And he listed off me 6 or 7 groups that are all going in together, right? And that they're all in agreement on how they're fighting, right? And when I talked to him, I listened to him for about an hour and a half. About an hour, I listened to him talk or so, just about these things. And as he talked, I realized he has no idea what is really going on. All they were talking about is Super Bowl events and young teenage girls 15 and above getting trafficked, right? Yeah. Now, that is a terrible thing all by itself, right? Of course.
It is.
I have a daughter, I certainly don't want that to happen. But a 15-year-old girl who looks like a woman, meaning that she has a natural shape that's developed, and she looks like a woman, and a man would have no way of knowing how old she is. It would not be a perversion for a man to see a woman like that, or a young girl like that, who's still a kid, and be attracted to her. That would not be a perversion, right? That would be a natural attraction.
It'll be against the law, but it's not a perversion. I get it. Right.
So now it is wrong, but you can see how a man can get trapped in that situation, right?
Sure. No, we talk about that as one of the main ways that they entrap new congressmen and senators, right? Right. Oops, she was that old? Oops.
Yeah. Now, I would argue, I've seen that word. It'd be very, very hard to tell. But now, take that a step further, right? Now, all these people are going into the White House, and this is what they're stopping about stopping, right? This is the big thing. and they're talking about things, making examples of, and they're trying to shame, right? This is a Christian base, but they're trying to shame the Christian base and say that if men, call and set up a prostitute, right? And the prostitute's 24 years old. This is exactly what it is. If the prostitute's 24 years old, that because she was brought into the trafficking when she was 16, that he's still guilty of rape. He's still guilty of rape, is what they're trying to shame them into saying, right?
Okay, that's odd, but okay. I'll
Okay, no, I know. I'm painting the picture of the way they work, the way these things happen.
Okay.
So now this guy is a good guy. He's just trying to do the right thing. He learned about it like 4 or 5 years ago, and now he's trying to help, and I appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm not speaking ill of this guy. So what happened? The top advertising agency in the world, wants to support it, and they're willing to launch everything. He comes up with all these different sports stars, right? They're all going to be involved, right? And now they're 4 years into planning. And you know how many kids they've helped, saved, made a difference with none? 0. Right? So, but they're planning. But now they have a product coming out, right? It's gonna sell. I'm not gonna ruin it, but they have products that are gonna come out and they're gonna sell. They're sports drinks, right? They're gonna sell these, and it's gonna help raise money. And I asked them, to do what? To do what? I want to know, right? And I'm not gonna give that plan away because I got cell technology that will help a very small amount of people, right? But I'm like, so he gets to talking, and I go, he was talking about statistics, and I said, okay, we're on different parts of this, so you and I, right? You're in the presentation with all these groups, and what I'm looking for is I want to know what the hell's going on at the White House. Because you have all these groups being called in the White House, and I was told that these are the major players contributing to stopping trafficking. And after talking to him and hearing the other groups there, it's very clear why trafficking has not stopped. So in these very big decisions that President Trump has to make, the biggest decisions he has to make, and all the people there, I want to help them. I want to help them, right? I want to help. So here's some advice around, right? 1, look at the real statistics that actually matter. Yeah. 88% of the kids that are missing in this country are in the custody of Child Protective Services. 89% of the children taken by Child Protective Services are based on false accusations. So that statistic, it's kind of like what you showed with David Steele.
Yeah, that's all you need to know.
That's all you need to know. The fact that is your statistic reported by the FBI.
Yeah. Shut it down. Shut it down now. Just shut it down.
Shut them off. Take away their grants. Take away their buildings. Fire every one of their people. Yeah. And I don't care if there are good people trying to help there. I do not care.
Right.
They are just as liable that they've watched this nonsense go on, and they've done it for a paycheck. So you've allowed children to be taken away from their families, crushed what it means to be human, ruined and destroyed any semblance of an American dream for a paycheck so your family's okay. Can you imagine? Now, but I was talking to him, and I realized, wow, this is what they do. They posture to make it look at what we're doing to stop it. So bad. It's not Pizzagate. It's a bunch of pervert, guys who are watching football games. So in one fell swoop, not only do they make it look like they're fighting child trafficking or human trafficking, they also further emasculate men, right? Let me just take men down. Men who watch sports are bad. Bunch of perverse scumbags who are there at these big games, and they just think they can do whatever they want. And not only that, the category that you create, right? A guy calls up an adult who's 24 years old, right, to make arrangements. And and I'm not encouraging it, but you have 2 willing participants doing something that, in all likelihood, if they're meeting, it's consensual, right? They come together and they pay for her time, and they do more. It's not actually illegal, right? From that point, but it's awful because they're right. For this bitch girl got kidnapped or something or pulled into this when she was 15 years old, right? And that's why, and that's what the tragedy is, right? But even bigger, but it takes away, as bad as that is, it takes away from that 15-year-old still has a voice. She still has an education. She can make her own decisions, even, or at least try. She could fight if she wanted. Somehow, she has a better chance in my point, right? I don't want to take away and make that okay, but I will not put those two things on the same level as 2-year-old James Beal, who got raped to death, and his murder is being covered up by the judges and the court system and the police in Illinois. And there's still a little girl in the custody of the family, the side of the family, the father that raped the little boy to death, or allowed him to rape to death. Now, I'm sorry, you cannot put these things in the same category. They're not. These are different levels of trafficking.
Yeah.
Right? They're different levels of trafficking. Now, you could say that finding the loophole is what they do, right? They say, okay, the way that they are allowed to have whole websites, advertising prostitutes, right, is because they're escorts. They come together, and one person is paying for the other one's time. And once they're there, whatever they want to do at the time, that is their decision together. That's how they justify it, right? Now, so you can say, well, they're justifying legalized prostitution, right? That's one thing. That is not the same as a judge being a legal authority and claiming that it's legal that he turns over custody to an abusive father, and that judge can go in and have his way with the child. But you could say they're both legalized prostitution, right?
Yeah.
But are they the same category?
No.
No. Yeah, that's my point. And so I don't want to get
I hear what you're saying. Because I think that this the emasculation of men is part of this. It's the same soft pedalings of we were just talking about with Robert David Steele, right? That he's it's just child love. It's that soft pedaling part. It's like anything that feed the children. Let's all the Hollywood people get together and we'll sing a song, and that'll solve it. It doesn't solve it, right? It's just everyone's getting together and sing a song. I mean, it doesn't. That's might be a beginning of something, but you don't carry through and actually solve the problem, stop it from happening, interact. Jump on it and run with it and change it. But this is how they've been able to stop people from acting, because we keep acting as though it's going to make a difference, but it never does. Right? So we lose hope that we can actually make a difference, an individual making a difference. But we can.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm proposing, right? So there's one individual that this group is working with now. It's interesting because I had two of my team members on the phone, Lisa and Lane on the phone, right? And so after very patiently listening to this very, a guy who means well, right? He speaks for 45 minutes, an hour or so, and I'm listening, and then he said all the things he's doing. You can tell he wants to make a difference, right? And then I came in with all this heavy stuff right after, right? Right after. And I was and I was very trying to be very supportive. But what was disappointing to me was I'm like, you are being invited to the White House. You are. And with all due respect to the president, the entire cabinet, I'm very clear on this. You are doing a PC job.
Yeah.
You are public relations for the image of the presidency right now and the people. You are portraying that you're doing something. And I know because I'm on the ground doing it.
Yes, yeah. Another when you said PC, I'm thinking politically correct, right? It is a politically correct. It's a soft pedal. It's like it's packaged in a soft way, and really just it doesn't allow for people to get the emotional response they should be having against it, right? It's muted.
I find it to be at this point. I listen to this plan. Now, this is cultural guidance in the way that it works, the way that it functions through the order, right? The way that they run it is, you can basically get people to sign off on anything, exactly what you call soft peddling. I love that's a great term, right? So you get Robert David Steele, and they're soft peddling, like pedophilia, which is child love. Right? Oh my gosh, like stop talking.
Just child love.
It's just child love, right? So and that was eased into the consciousness of people after they took away, what it means for men to stand up and fight, right, and protect. Because if we want to now be protectors, if we want to say things that are true, we have to worry about all the people we're offending, right? Or we'll be attacked by the, liberal mafia that's going to destroy us. Like, how archaic these belief systems are. Can you believe it? It's like, stop. Just stop. There are things that our existence, right, rely on. And it just makes sense, physically speaking, if one is physically stronger, that they're going to naturally feel a desire to protect, right? Like to offer what we have as the best to our, the other half. It's just naturally, that's what it's going to happen, right? So you have all these things, they had to destroy all these aspects of what it means to be human, right? And then raise up, women that basically are competing with men that are afraid to speak and be men, and then you're introducing the transhuman, like everybody should be everything, all this stuff. You're evil if you're white. If you're straight, you're bad. You introduce all these different concepts all at once. So then, when it finally push comes to shove, you can just, soft sell. So what do? You take the opportunity, and of all the kinds of trafficking there is, who do you go after? You go after the one category of trafficking, that actually most resembles of men playing their natural role, right? Because it is not a stretch to imagine a 15-year-old, 16-year-old girl who looks like a woman. And that it's still trafficking, but you can see how a man being attracted to a girl who looks like she's a grown woman and he doesn't know how old she is, that is still a natural attraction. So you take that principle, right? And so all the things happening in trafficking, raping children, eating children, torturing babies, all these horrible things about trafficking, and they sold it as we need to ease the people into what trafficking is. I disagree. What they're doing is they're enabling.
Right.
They are enabling a myth. They're enabling something that is not even the same category, not even the same world, to cover up what really goes on.
It's just it's as I said yesterday, the gateway drug of getting into this heavier stuff where you're eating the children, right? It's just because it's just down the road to the dark side. It just keeps getting darker and darker and darker, right? And you just can't say, well, this amount of darkness is okay. No, you're robbing something away from those children. As I said, this I brought this up the other day. Glenn Beck, it says this is about slavery, right? When we're talking human trafficking, we're talking about slavery. We're having someone else taking over someone else's life for our own benefit, right? They have no say in it. They have to do what they're told, right? And their labor is for your benefit. So whether or not you're going to end up feeding them, say you get a universal basic income, right? And then you don't do anything rather than what they have you do, right? Whether it's, you know, no matter what, how lame that might be, you're giving up your freedom, right?
Yeah.
So I'm stretching it a little bit into the other topics just to show it's pervasive as the same strategy, you know, across the board. You know,
It's very. You're right. It is the same. It is exactly the same strategy, and it's, you know, my son, my 13-year-old. I'm sure he got it from something, but he made a great point about something, right? He was asking me questions about this. He's like, you know, he's like, so, you know, prostitution is illegal, right? Of course, right? He says, but because you're paying someone for sex, right? Well, what if you're filming it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, if you're
No,
filming
it's
it,
very
is it
good.
still illegal?
Yeah, very good point.
No. No, he said, no, it's not. Then it's just pornography. Now you're a businessman. Now you're enterprising,
Yeah.
right? So that's the kind of thing that's like, you know, these are the kind of, we justify things that make us money.
Yeah.
You know, if we can find a way that's profitable, then people pretty much leave it alone, right? So even though everything is kind of rampant with this broken system, right? But I'm sorry, even this horrible industry, none of it is awful and as seedy as they make the pornography industry look like, right? Which is that you cannot compare that to the Child Protective Services that comes and takes your children and traffics them. It doesn't compare.
No.
So.
It's not even close on the same planet.
And I would say if the groups at the White House meeting, if they are not addressing that issue, then they are not addressing the issue at all. So, and with that, Stan, I'm all set, man. That's all I got.
All right, that's good. All right, that's a good place to break. Well, you know, we cover some heavy stuff. I gotta bring up another comedy thing to break switch gears here, but that's all right. Maybe tomorrow. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. We'll be back tomorrow. Please subscribe. Please share. Let's give some likes. Let's build up the channels, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks, Tank.
All right. Have a good night.